Hey, Bills Mafia. We know there's only one topic every day. All Bills, all the time. And now Matt Bovee and Sal Capaccio are going really deep, talking Bills all year long, because it's always game day in Buffalo.
Welcome to Sal and Matt's travel podcast. Just kidding, but we could really start one, you and I. We travel a lot. We've been around a lot to different areas of the world. We both love traveling. We have families that love to travel. And it's 12:38 right now p.m. on a Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Traveling's amazing, Matt. Literally 5 hours ago, I was in 75-degree weather.
Yeah. And now here you are.
On a plane, I'm in 35-degree weather.
And now you're stuck talking to me in 35-degree weather in Buffalo, New York. Life comes at you fast, huh?
It is crazy, though, to think about. Like, we think about that all the time. Yana says to me every time we do that, she goes, I can't believe that, like, literally earlier today we were in, like, California, and then now we're in Buffalo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, wherever it is where we go, traveling's pretty cool when you think about it. And it's a great thing. And we love to travel. We were just down in Florida, and I kept checking the weather. All right, great. When we get back to Buffalo, the weather's going to change, right? I think we're almost there. We're almost there.
Yeah, you're close. You're close. I was actually talking to, shout out to my guy, Jimmy, who works the elevator at the Sabres games. He's in the elevator that goes up at the press box, and he's going down to Florida for a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, hey, man, by the time when the season's done, it's like, hey, man, by the time you get back, maybe it'll actually be nice outside. That's always why I like traveling around this time, because it feels like you get that little extra buffer of like, okay, when you come back, all right, now you're going to be good to go. The draft being early, though, this year kind of throws things off a little bit. Like, I didn't get a chance to get away. Totally fine. So I'm off today. Maybe do a little staycation. Go visit the Easter Bunny. That's the plan for the afternoon. See if our daughter loses her mind for the Easter Bunny.
We saw the Easter Bunny was in Florida and Sarasota at a couple spots, and it hits a little different when it's that warm, though. It's the Easter Bunny, right? Little, okay, yeah, I get it. When Santa comes down there too, I've been down there for that. We did go to Florida, and we had a great time down there. It is just so incredibly like changing. Like Orlando, the construction is wild. We went from Orlando to Tampa, and I want to tell you about Tampa in a second. Went from Orlando to Tampa. It was 50 miles. It took an hour and a half because the construction and the traffic is so bad now.
No, I don't
do
that. Buffalo traffic for me, not that there is traffic, that's my speed. I like that I can get 50 miles in like 53 minutes. Like, that's kind of my ideal kind of speed. I don't love the sitting and going in traffic and all that nonsense. And Florida's bad, especially if you're at rush hour, certain types of Florida. But like California's terrible, DC is terrible. Like, there's some places that have really horrendous traffic.
Do you choose when you go? We might have talked about this last year, 2 years ago. I think we did. If you choose on your like maps or GPS, if you have a route that's longer and takes longer, but it's way more less stop and go. I always choose that versus a shorter route, but it's more stop and go.
No, I won't. I'll take the shorter route.
Way too.
I'll take the shorter route, even if it is more stop and go. But I actually just had this conversation with somebody. I will drive an extra 6 minutes to go to my favorite or preferred grocery store, even though I have another version of that grocery store closer to my house.
Wow.
So, yeah, some people are like, that's crazy to me. I'm like, for an extra 12 minutes, I want to go where I know where everything is, where I'm comfortable going. I don't think I can name drop the grocery store on the podcast. It rhymes with Schmegman's. And I have one of those closer to me in Niagara Falls, but I like to go to the one on Niagara Falls Boulevard in Amherst.
That's crazy. I think that's crazy.
Why?
That's why. Hey, I shouldn't say that, because I will take an extra 6 minutes if it means I don't have to stop and go, and it's just go all the time.
And the other thing too is, like, nobody tells you when you're a parent, 6 minutes in the car uninterrupted is very peaceful. So for me, that's an extra 12 minutes of, I can listen to Stairway to Heaven on the way there, and on the way back, I can like listen to some country music or something. I get a whole extra song each way. That's a win to me.
All right. Or you can listen to this podcast if people are doing that.
There you go. Yeah,
okay. Last question about the driving around. Now that we've opened up this door, I was thinking about this, and I said, I got to ask Matt this on the podcast. So one thing that we noticed in Florida is some of the traffic lights are just, oh my God, they take forever. Like, what are we doing here? Can you please change to green? I mean, they are set differently in different places, right? I mean, and is there one or two somewhere where you're like, oh my God, that light takes forever all the time?
Oh,
like, do you know? Can you think offhand? Here's a question to all you listeners and viewers out there, right? Drop us a comment at Sal Sports at Matt_Bove. What's the longest light in Western New York do you have to sit at that you get really frustrated because it's so long?
I'll tell you, they're not necessarily the longest lights, but there's the most of them in a not so long span. And this is a very niche reference for my Northtown friends, but Twin City Highway, if you can hit
I know
Twin
where it
City
is.
Highway without hitting a light, you should continue to drive and go right to the casino because it is almost impossible to avoid that area without getting stopped at like 3 or 4 different lights. And it's just the thing about growing up in Wheatfield is it legitimately takes you longer to get from Wheatfield to the Thruway than it does to get from the Thruway to downtown or even to Orchard Park. There's not just like an easy access to the Thruway. Now on Grand Island, I mean, the 190 cuts right through Grand Island, so it's very easy to get places. Wheatfield, I used to always have to go up Twin City Highway, and that's a drag.
I would say Niagara Falls Boulevard is like this. They have long lights, and it's lots of lights and long lights. Like that's a big one for me. But drop us a comment on this particular topic if you'd like to chime in and have some fun with it. What is like the longest light in Western New York that you're like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Every time I go there, I hit it and it takes me forever. We could talk about that. We're going to do a mock draft today and pick the Bills pick for you in just a little while. We did go to the Sabres game Sunday night in Tampa. It was a loss. I have to tell you, we were sitting behind the bench. I went to the Sabres game with Max and Yana 2 years ago, and Ilya Bushkin won in overtime. It was great. It was a great time. And we were walking out, and we were getting a lot of cat calls from, Lightning fans not being very friendly. And this time was all good, except Alex Tuck scores to make it 6-3. Max and I stand up. We're cheering. Woo! There's a whole bunch of Sabres fans in front of us. They're standing up and cheering. There's a younger guy, 2 rows behind me. He says, you're down 6-3. Sit the F down. I didn't say anything. I just kind of threw up my hands. I'm I turned a little bit and I kind of pointed like, hey, I got a little guy here, right? All of a sudden I hear him say, what are you pointing at? And I turned around and I said, well, I got an 11-year-old sitting next to me and your language, you don't need to talk like that. He's like, why don't you just turn around then? And I'm like, well, you just asked me a question.
Yeah.
And I said to him, I said, buddy, I paid for my seat just like you did. Okay. And he goes, well, just turn around. And I just turned around. I didn't say a word the rest of the time, but it wasn't the greatest experience. And listen, I will tell you in full disclosure, Max has heard plenty worse at Bills games and everywhere else. But to say to sit the F down when you're standing up, you're with your 11-year-old and a whole bunch of the people down there. I don't think he was directing it at us, but we were we were there. You know what I mean?
It's like some people are just like the worst. Some people are the best. But like, what are we doing? Like, sports are fun. You just won a Stanley Cup a couple of years ago. You've won multiple Stanley Cups. You're winning the game. You're going to the playoffs. The Sabres stink. Like, let the 11-year-old cheer for his favorite team. Like, what are we doing?
You and I mean, I don't think anybody should be in this situation to escalate it, but I think you and I, because we work in the media and we're faces are on TV and people know who we are. Like, I think we intentionally even more so have to avoid situations like that. So I made sure to do that. And I really thought about it. And I said, what I should have said to him was I should have gone, hey dude, your team is really good. My team stinks. Can we just celebrate a goal here? It's all good. And he probably would have laughed.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if he would have laughed based off of the interaction that it sounds like he has. Sounds like he's a real loser, but
I will tell you though, Yana gave him a great glare on the way out. When my wife glares at you, like you are not being nice. So
I hope that guy got a speeding ticket on his way home. That's what I hope happened to that guy.
Other than that, we had a great time down there. Okay, we are going to get to a mock draft. Do you have any lingering thoughts from Mike North's Schedule podcast after everybody got a chance to consume it and give you comments?
I think they're going to play on Christmas. Like, I really do think that they're going to play on a holiday. It could be Black Friday. It could be Christmas. But it felt almost like Mike kept presenting the option even when he wasn't being pressed on it. Like, oh, that could be a game that's played on Black Friday. Or, oh, you haven't played on a holiday in a little while. So that was kind of my main takeaway. Now, I don't want to say I've definitely think they're going to, because I felt similar last year and they didn't. Like, I remember feeling like the same thing after the last podcast, but that's almost even more evidence to suggest that it will happen because they've been off of that. And one of the things that I told him when we recorded was every time the Bills play in one of these windows, you guys get some massive, massive number. They want the holidays to be a success. So that's why I could see them leaning into the back pocket of like, hey, we got the Bills here. and using them as a way of trying to draw an audience or bring an audience to that window. So I do get the sense that I think they're going to play on Christmas or on Black Friday. And I'll also say, if that's the case, I really do think it would be in Buffalo. Like, I don't think they would have the Bills play on the road on Christmas. I think they want the spectacle of snow. I think they want, like, ooh, Christmas Day in a place where it could potentially be snowing. I don't think you would stick them in Houston. And they did that last year. Houston, Baltimore was played on Thanksgiving, but I'm just like a dome. Like, I don't think they'd be like, oh, Bills Atlanta on Christmas Day. Like, it just doesn't feel Christmassy to me. This is still This is still television, right? Like, these are the things that they're thinking about.
No doubt. I think that Mike does it right with us because people are still wondering, and I have people on both sides. I've had people text me and say, I listened to your Mike North podcast, and I think the Bills are playing international. Mm-hmm. And I've had people text me and say, I've listened, and I don't think they are, but they're going to play Christmas and Black Friday or Black Friday. Mm-hmm. So I think that's great, right? When you don't really know, because you got people on both sides who kind of take away different things of what he said. I agree with you. Mm-hmm. I think less of a chance international, but I'm still leaving that door open. Maybe even more so for, could it be even not Pittsburgh? Could it be Cleveland, like in London or something? Or who knows?
Yeah,
I'm leaving a little more open door there. But I'm with you. I think I'm more emboldened to say Black Friday and or Christmas. I mean, didn't the Chiefs play on both last year?
Yeah, the Chiefs. Yeah,
they did.
I think they did.
They played on both last year.
Yeah, I think they did.
It is not out of the realm of possibility. The Bills play on both days.
They might have both been. No, home was in Christmas Day was in Pittsburgh, and I think home was against Houston on Black Friday, if memory serves me correct.
I'm gonna look right now just to be sure, but I think, you never know. I remember several years ago the Steelers played on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's Day.
Ugh, no, thank you. I don't think Bills fans want that either, to be honest.
No, so they played the Raiders on Black Friday.
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs last year, they played the Raiders on Black Friday.
Oh, that was the game. That was the game that they should have won.
Yeah,
and then the Raiders fumbled
it up. Yes.
Yeah, the Raiders screwed it up at the end. Yeah,
and then they went to Pittsburgh on Christmas last year. So there you go.
Okay. Well, yeah, that was probably my big takeaway from the conversation. There's a lot more. I love the conversation, and we appreciate all the feedback we've been getting. You know, I get a lot of people who will reach out and say like, "Oh, I thought this was so informative," or "Oh, it's so cool that you guys get to do this." So I'm really, really excited for the schedule to come out, and it sounds like May 15th is going to be the day when we kind of can start to put all the pieces together. The one thing I wish I would have asked him is, will we know about the international games? How much before that will we know? Because we already know the one opponents, but if memory serves me correct, they don't announce the international games the day of the schedule. Like, that gets announced beforehand. Like, we wouldn't find out.
That's generally the case, but it's been trending towards closer and closer to the release itself the last few years, right? The international games used to be months in advance. Now, even he did touch on the fact that they don't need to do that anymore. But I agree with you. It's kind of like in pieces where they'll announce big games, and those are the bigger games that they put out a little bit earlier.
Yeah, they give everybody a crumb, and that's how they did it a couple years ago. Actually, no, we didn't know a couple of years ago that they were opening the season against the Rams until the schedule came out. And kind of like process of elimination, you could figure out like, okay, why haven't they announced the game? We did know the Monday night opener against the Jets in 2023. That got announced on Good Morning America, I believe. And then the game against the Dolphins got announced the day before the schedule came out for last year, the week 2 game. Because I remember kind of piecing all of that together of like, okay, we know they're in Miami week 2. Who are they going to play week 1? Because then I think we even did a podcast of like, well, if they're in Miami week 2, they're probably not playing on the road in week 1. They're going to probably start at home. It's going to be a home opener. So yeah, I'm excited. I love the schedule, but I love the draft even more. So it's fun time for football.
And finally, one thing I did, like, I realize this every year, but it always comes out a little bit around now, which is I have so much trouble planning things until the schedule comes out. You know, like, there's all this stuff that people are telling me, oh, hey, once August comes, when September comes, thinking about this, thinking about that, there's this gathering, this outing, this event. And I'm like, I don't know until the schedule comes out. I can't commit to anything. So, you know, it's just so much of our lives, not even just professionally for me and you. And I mean, that is one thing, but I think personally for a lot of people, right? I mean, they have to
for
know
fans.
It's amazing.
Right?
Yeah,
It's like somebody's
for
like,
sure.
"Hey, you want to go and do this thing on the weekend of
I
October
know.
18th?" And you're like, "Well, what if that's the weekend the Chiefs are in town?"
I
Like, I
know.
think a lot of fans are thinking that way of like,
Yeah.
"Let me figure out what the schedule looks like because I don't want to commit to something until I know." It's like, "Oh yeah, Bills against the Browns that week. Like, yeah, I can miss that game on the road. I could do this event, or hey, maybe that's the week the Eagles are here." And you're like, "Absolutely not. It's a non-starter." So yeah, it's if you were a football fan, the NFL has done such an incredible job of dragging all of this out, and they give you their politically correct reasons of Mike North telling us, like, hey, we want April to be about the kids, and we want to make sure we have as much information as possible when we put out the schedule. The NFL loves that people like Sal and I are talking about them all the way through the year. 365 days. I know the name of the podcast is
Mhm.
It's Always Game Day in Buffalo. It's not always actually Game Day in Buffalo, but there's always something to talk about with the Buffalo Bills, which makes it such a fun gig.
All right, let me just do some house cleaning, then we're gonna get to our draft. I'll let Matt set that up for you. Okay. First
Yeah.
of all, the Mike North podcast, in case you did not see or listen to it, it's it's been we really appreciate all the national love we've been getting. Pro Football Talk was mentioning it. They actually talked about it, I believe Mike Florio did on Pro Football Talk the other day as well as an article. I've seen other national places reference it and talk about it. So thank you very much for all of that love. We love doing the podcast. Check it out. There's so much information there. It's a great hour and a half of listen, I think, if you're a schedule person, especially, but you just information about the NFL and how things work. That's of course on YouTube at Sal Sports. That's where you can always find all of these videos, as well as wherever you pod, iTunes, Spotify, anywhere that you pod. Make sure you download, you subscribe, throw us a rating, a review, and send us any questions about the schedule or comments on the schedule podcast. We'd love for that. Also,
Yeah.
yes, the draft is next week. I want to just remind everybody the Bills also start off-season workouts next week.
Yep.
Next Monday is the day that they can start. This week, teams with new head coaches started. The Jets are there this week at their facility. I was reading articles about that's right.
Week.
You're right. I'm sorry. See, that's what happens when you go on vacation. You mix up your weeks. But you're right. But the Bills can start, and they will start next week. And obviously, we'll be down there for some media we're expecting. That'll be pre-draft media. That'll be talking with, maybe Josh Allen, whoever that the Bills make available as the Bills begin their offseason workouts. So just a lot going on that we want to make sure that you're touching on here.
Now, before we get to the mock draft simulation that we'll do, you see the reports from a lot of different people. Jeremy Fowler, I think, was the first to have it, that James Bradbury, the cornerback, is visiting with the Bills on Wednesday. So we're recording this on Wednesday. There's familiarity there because he was in Carolina. Of course, he was in Carolina when Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott were there. Most recently with the Eagles, was on IR for all of the last season. But in the year before, 2 years before, he was, a mainstay starter for them, starting in the Super Bowl. I think he was a starter the year before he got injured as well. So, like, what are your initial thoughts if it does come to fruition? It's just a visit, right? He hasn't signed here, but it's notable. It's something to talk about.
Very notable. And here's why I tell you the biggest notable for me. This is me piecing together. You and your Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay, Pittsburgh thing, right, that we talked about. I got one here about the draft and how this relates. I think this is a clear another sign that the Bills are going D-line, not corner, with their first pick.
Okay.
Because I believe the Bills believe there are veteran corners out there they can still bring in to kind of bridge the gap and not have to rush to reach to draft a corner. I think they don't believe that about defensive tackle, especially with Ogunjobi's suspension. And remember what Brandon Beane said. Why did they still sign Ogunjobi, Matt? After they found it out.
They didn't have better options.
So that gets me to they're going to draft a defensive tackle first. I think that they mean all signs. Bradbury is that's Dane Jackson was out there. Bradbury's out there. There's still some other veteran corners out there. Even guys who play for the Bills. Tre'Davious White, Russell Douglas, right? Kendall Fuller, right? Whoever it is. I think the Bills believe there's probably still some options at corner that can get them through if they have to, but that's not the case at defensive tackle. I think Bradbury's visit is an indication, even more so to me, of how I've always believed, which is they're drafting defensive line first.
Well, and it's an interesting conversation to have because the defensive line class has been one that's been talked about for a couple of years leading up to this year of, hey, this defensive line group is really serious. And if you're a team that needs to address the defensive line, you're in luck because there's a lot of talent at really all the positions on the defensive line in this draft. So you have to weigh that, but also know, well, what if they take a defensive lineman? Then you have to almost sign one of these corners. Like, you have to do it because I don't know if you're just immediately assuming that a second round pick is going to step in and win the job over a veteran like a James Bradbury or somebody else who they could potentially sign. That's worrisome to me. Like, if you draft a corner in the first round, you're expecting that person to be your starter opposite Christian Benford on a cost controlled contract that mirrors basically Christian Benford's contract. So
Do you
I
think,
think
let me ask you a
I
question.
think
Where do
there's
where do
value
they
in
pick?
that.
30 and 50, right? Is it? What? Okay.
30, 56, 62.
56. It is 26 picks. I totally understand that. Do you think there's that much of a gap in 26 picks where you say you draft one at 30,
Uh-huh.
you're expecting him to start. You draft one at 56, I don't think you can do that. Or is it because to me, I think you can still feel either way about one of those. I don't think draft, here's why I'd say it this way. I don't think if you draft one at 30, it means you're automatically expecting him to start, but certainly you're going to give him that opportunity. I think if you draft one at 56, same thing. You're going to
Yeah.
give him the opportunity. He very well could. Doesn't mean he's going to.
We'll do the exercise because I think it helps us kind of explain what I'm thinking. But when I've done so many mock draft simulations, and I
Yeah.
know that these are simulations, right? And I've done so much research on all of these guys. I'm not somebody who, I don't want to paint this picture that I'm somebody who sits there and grinds tape and I'm like, oh, Trey Amos has these unbelievably fluid hips and that's why he's going to be such a great. I'm not that guy, but I've done conversations with Field Yates and Jordan Reed from ESPN and other different draft analysts. You have the conversations at the combine. So, like, our knowledge base, I don't want to speak for you, but my knowledge base is having conversations with people who do that stuff and trying to make an educated opinion about a certain player or a certain depth at position. When I do these simulations, I feel like when I draft a defensive tackle for the Bills in the first round, it gets pretty thin with the options in the second round. But if I draft a corner with the Bills or if I trade back, then I can kind of get both of those pieces and then have the luxury of taking a position that the Bills might not need as much. I feel like the best mock drafts you put together are the ones for the Bills where they address defensive tackle and cornerback, but then the next pick is either a wide receiver or a safety. Because, like, I'm still of the belief, I think they need a wide receiver. I know that not everybody agrees with that, but I would absolutely be on board with them using a day 2 pick on a wide receiver. So I feel like when you do it the other way, when you draft the corner first, the board sometimes plays out better than when you draft the defensive tackle first and then you see what's left.
Obviously, we don't know how the Bills view these players, right? I mean, that goes without saying. This is how we hear about the community and Field Yates and all these other people who do a great job with, understanding these players. What I try to do is when I hear about these players and you watch some of this, and I agree with you, there's a lot of great draft analysts and experts out there who watch these guys and evaluate them and where they rank them. That's not my job. That's not what I like to do. I have an opinion on guys. What I really try to do is figure out what do the Bills like in players and where does that guy fit? What are the traits that they go after? And then when I see that, and okay, that's how he would fit. Not what would Sal Capaccio do as general manager. That's not what I would try to do. Not to saying that you would either. It's what do I think the Bills? And I will tell you, I'm very, very, very convinced the Bills are not drafting a wide receiver until day 3.
No, I don't disagree with you. I feel like that's an area that's an area where I think they should, but I don't think they will. I think that they are going to try and find a pure speed field stretcher, probably in the 4th or 5th round, and then really attack defense early in the draft. I think it's more of the luxury positions that they could select. I think it's far more likely they take a safety than a wide receiver, but I don't think they should. I think that they should take a wide receiver or at least explore the options based off of the names that are there.
All right, why don't you set up this mock draft and let's get to it. What we're going to do here, a simulation and then the Bills pick.
Yeah, so basically there's a lot of different mock draft simulators out there. PFF has one, ESPN has one, but I've noticed with especially the ESPN one, there are some really weird names that fall that don't seem realistic. So this stick to model mock draft simulator has been exceptional. So we'll bring it up on the screen. If you're listening on the audio sign, we'll try and narrate through kind of what's going on. But essentially what we're going to do is we are going to pick the Bills as the team. We're going to do 5 rounds, even though there's obviously 7 rounds in the draft. Most of the names that people will recognize will be picked in the first 5 rounds. So we're going to start the draft. So once we start the draft, it's going to start going pretty rapid fire here, and you're going to see all of the top names start to dwindle down. Now, if there's somebody who you're like, stop, I want the Bills to try and trade up the draft board, we'll have to do it quick. If not, we'll just see who's available at 30, and then we'll also see what our options are to trade back. So producer Mike Robier, you can start, and Sal, if you need to yell stop, You can
Well,
yell
if we're
stop.
going, this thing is going pretty quick here. I don't know if we can stop it that quickly, but we can.
That's fine. I mean,
Okay, go
is
ahead.
there really anybody worth trading up for the
Let's see.
Bills? Right?
Probably not. Probably not. But you never know here because they do have the capital to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
I mean,
Sanders goes third.
Uh-huh.
Gentry. I think Gentry to the Raiders is almost a no-brainer as long as he's there. Like that's happening, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe he can pause it every once in a while too.
It looks like he's paused right now. You can continue it, Mike.
Will Johnson. By the way, real quick, I don't know if you know, I've said this on the radio. Will Johnson has family in Buffalo.
Oh,
yeah, and you know, it's just cool to watch his career kind of develop. So
Will Johnson. Interesting. Will Johnson is a name that a lot of people in the draft community think could be a name that slips a little bit. And if he slips a little bit, I wonder if that would be a move where the Bills would be almost like Brian Thomas Jr. last year, where they would have had to probably give up a day 2 pick to go up and get him. I don't think you would be able to move up with a 4th round pick enough. I think it would probably take, a 2nd round pick to maybe jump up like 10 spots. The name that gets attached to him if he does slip is the Packers. He's not testing, or a lot of people don't believe he's testing as much as he should in the pre-draft process. So his name is one that a lot of the experts, like Dane Brugler from The Athletic, does the beast. He's as inside, he knows all this stuff. So that's a name to watch. But you can continue the mock draft.
Do you know? Well, real quick, I want to say this about that. I'm sure he wouldn't mind mentioning it. Actually, do you remember a few years ago, a young boy named his nickname was the Warrior, Andre the Warrior, cancer diagnosis. He's done a lot of stuff. They brought him to Sabres games and things like that. Well, it's his dad is Rich Sanders, who does a lot for he's a local football coach. He started his own like flag football to raise some money and things like that. Rich Sanders is Will Johnson's cousin. That's how I know him. And
that's cool.
Yeah, so it's a great Buffalo tie-in. But go ahead, let's continue this.
Yeah, we can continue the mock draft. Wow, Abdul Carter in this went 8.
Ted McMillan goes. Okay,
not gonna happen.
Okay, stop it here for a second. Let's see. Shamar Stewart is right there. We see that. Tyler Warren. Okay, the Jedi Brown. That's a nice pick for the Miami Dolphins if they do get.
So basically, we got to figure out here. We're at pick 17. Would the Bills be willing to part ways with a 2nd round pick to try and move up and get either a defensive tackle or cornerback?
Well, can you show me the players available right now, please?
You can. If you go to the players at the tab right under where it says stick. Exactly.
Yep.
So this will show you the best players available.
Could you go to defensive line in red, please? There we go. Thank you, Mike. I think there's enough left that you don't have to do that.
I don't think you're trading.
What about corners?
I mean, that's why the corner drop off is interesting because you've got these guys who are.
If you unclick D line for me, Mike, that'll just be the corners. Then there you go. Thank you.
Okay. Siobhan Revel.
There's some nice names there too.
Yeah, Siobhan Revel will be there. Maxwell Harrison will be there. Trey Amos will be there. Azrae Thomas will be there. So go back to the draft tab, Mike, and then you can just start it. I say we just let it rip to 30.
Okay, let's go. This is we should have some game show music in the background or something.
Yeah, so that seems to be the area where you have a decision to make because Derek Harmon and Walt, all those guys.
Okay.
Go. All right. So this is a very real situation for the Bills. All of the defensive tackles that I think people would be targeting are off of the board.
Can we see? Because I don't see that. I want to make sure I look at what tackles are there or not there. Okay.
Okay. So if you go to defensive line.
There we go.
So now
defensive line, click it. There we go. I don't think that's the case because I think Tyleik Williams would be my pick here. I think that is a player that absolutely could be the 30th pick overall by the Buffalo Bills.
See, I don't disagree with you. I think TJ Sanders is in the same boat from South Carolina. But I think that if you're going to do this, if you're the Bills, you should do what you did last year I'm not saying you trade with Kansas City, but I think you explore a small trade back to then potentially get another asset that you could use for one of those luxury picks. So, Mike, the tab that says trades, can we see what our trade options are and see what, teams are willing to give us to get up? So there's the scores over there. So you see the Bengals. The Bengals are willing to give you 49 and 60 for 30. That feels like too big of a fall. I don't think that I would be interested in that. Do you agree?
I have to go 19 spots down. The only other one is 14 spots down. Plus a future pick. I think 19 spots down is too far. Although the other part about this is I don't know if the Bills need more draft picks. They have 10 draft picks.
Yeah, but they might need like second picks or third, like day 2 picks. Can we do something fun?
Sure.
Go to create trade. All right. Please check the New York Giants. I'm not kidding. I do this all of the time. So you
go ahead. Yeah, let them cook, as the kids say.
Right there, New York Giants. All right, Brandon Bean, get on the phone with your buddy Joe Shane. Maybe the New York Giants want to trade back into the first round for a quarterback or something because they want to get a guy with an extra year on the rookie deal and a cost-controlled thing. You would only be moving back 4 spots. So they have the 34th pick and they have the 65th pick. Mike, see if they would do 34 and 99 for the Bills' 30th pick. And then the Bills' second 4th round pick, which is 132. Fair offer. Propose the trade. Bang. Trade accepted. All right, we've traded out of the first round. So the WGR.
I don't know if I'm in the room with you, I might be mad at you as my GM, but that's okay.
You wouldn't move down 4 spots and pick up a better pick, a 3rd round pick?
It's not the issue. It's giving up what I gave up on top of that.
What? That you gave up an additional 4? I mean, you
right?
got
what I get here.
A 40 spot improvement.
Hold on. What did I trade? Let's make sure I have this.
You traded 30 and 132 for 34 and 99. So now all of a sudden the Bills have another top 100 player. Another 3rd round pick. They have a 3rd round pick now. This is what they did with Dwayne Carter.
I understand what you're saying. All right. I get it now. Sorry. I was a little confused on one of the aspects of it. So we're all good now.
Okay, so you can close this out, and then you can continue the simulation. Mike, go back to the draft. Yep. Mike, you're doing a fantastic job, by the way. And if you're listening to this, we apologize that it's not as visual as it is on YouTube, but that's okay. All right, so you can start it here. So here you go. Nothing happened. So now we're in the exact same position. So if you're the Bills, would you rather here take one of the cornerbacks, one of the wide receivers, or Tyleik Williams from Ohio State?
Can you hit corner?
You're basically picking between Trey Amos, Max Harrison, Siobhan Revel.
And my next pick is what? 56?
56, yes. Or you can go the defensive line route. Yep.
And one more. Can you go edge, please, real quick?
You're not going to see. I just want to see much at edge.
Okay. I just want to see what was
the drop off at edge is pretty substantial. Late in the first round. What do you can pick. I made the trade, so I'll let you make the
I would
pick.
go with Williams. I'd still go with Tyleik Williams. He would have been my pick 4 picks ago, but now I just picked up the extra and I'm still going to take him. How about you?
So Tyleik Williams is fine. I would pick Trey Amos personally.
Okay.
But that's fine.
What do you think the Bills would do though?
Tyleik Williams or TJ Sanders.
See, I think this is what I guess this is how I always get confused. The only way I think is what would the Bills do? I try to give that presentation. It doesn't matter what I would do. I'm not running the team. For me, I think the Bills would go Tyleik Williams here.
Yeah, well, you know what I think about how the Bills draft. So a lot of it is what I think because, I know so much more than the Buffalo Bills and their entire scouting department. But yeah, let's do Tyleik Williams because I also think that's what the Bills would do. So we'll draft him, and now we'll continue to watch the board fall. I'll tell you what, just from doing enough of these, there's going to be a run on cornerbacks, and there's going to be a run on just like some of the other players. You can continue it, Mike. Like we're not going to trade back up into the second round. We're not that big a sicko. Well, I am. These normally take me a while. I'm that big of a sicko. Darius Alexander was a name that I thought was potentially interesting. All right, so here's the best players available now. So you've got kind of not a ton of positions of need for the Bills. And this is kind of what happens because the run on corners usually happens in the mid-second round. So a player that I have picked for them a lot is Xavier Watts, just because I like the player from watching Notre Dame. If you scroll down, Mike, you could show some of the other players that are available. It's going to be a lot of like Darian Porter is a fun one because good cornerback is a player that seems to be ascending. I could absolutely see them doing that. And it doesn't it feel like those are going to be the first 2 positions that they address? Cornerback and defensive tackle?
I wouldn't rule out edge still.
Okay, so go to the edge tab. The problem is there's just not much there.
Yeah, go up top, see what's there.
Like Jordan Birch and Josiah Stewart are the 2 best available.
How about corner? Go to corner for me.
Darian Porter and Jacob Parrish. Those are 2 guys I could see the Bills taking. I don't know if they would take Jacob Parrish in the second round, but I could absolutely see the Bills taking Jacob Parrish in this draft.
All right, and then finally go to wide receiver.
Hell yeah, Sal. Hell yeah, Sal.
Here.
I got all these guys. Give me all of them.
Okay, but here's to your point. Somebody's still going to be there then if you wait. You're not. All these guys aren't going between now and.
Well, remember
we 60 and then.
No, remember we pick again in 6 picks.
Right.
So that's why I would argue that right now See, this is the interesting thing. I think you take Darian Porter, the cornerback here, because it addresses another need at a position at like a value you would be comfortable giving up, or Xavier Watts, and you roll the dice and hope that he falls another 6 picks.
And do you think the Bills would do that possibly?
I think the Bills would take Darian Porter here. The corner.
I think the Bills are okay. Yeah, I could see that. They could go. Darian Porter feels like it could be.
Yeah,
could be right here.
Let's do Darian Porter.
Okay.
Okay. You can continue it. The Bills picking 6 picks. So Xavier Watts goes, whatever. So now you're going to be in the exact same position of, hey, those same edge rushers that were available before are still available, or you could draft a wide receiver. So you have to decide what is more valuable to the Bills. Drafting one of these wide receivers that's available. We're talking about guys like Jalen Noel, Jack Bech, Jalen Royals, Isaiah Bond, or one of the edge guys from Michigan or Oregon.
Give me the edge again.
So Sal, you can make this pick because I made the last one.
Well, I'm just taking a look here. Let me look. I have another. Let me take a look at.
So if you're listening, the best edge options available: Jordan Birch, Josiah Stewart, Braden Swinson. That is a name that has been tied to the Bills a little bit in the process. You know what I think about, and this isn't like a fair comparison, but these guys I think are going to be rotational edge rushers, and I don't know how much of a need that is for the Bills right now. If you're not going to go get a dude, I think the wide receiver might make a bigger immediate impact than the edge rusher.
I don't disagree with that. There's another Jordan Phillips as a defensive tackle, right?
Yeah, there is. He's more of like a 4th or 5th round pick.
It's kind of funny. Well, according to that, I mean, he could be. I've seen him as high as 3rd in some. So, but I agree with you. It's probably not until day 3. He's probably not going. Yeah, I mean, I'll go wide receiver here. I don't think, again, I try to present it as what the Bills would do. I like the wide receiver here. I think the Bills still go defense here, actually. So,
okay.
So to me, they go on the defensive side here. Again, I think their first 3 picks are going to be defense. I said it on there. I'll say Jordan Birch. I mean, let's go Jordan Birch.
Okay. Jordan Birch, edge rusher. So now the Bills have used their first 3 picks on the defensive side of the ball. But because of that minor trade back that we made, falling 4 picks, now the Bills have a 3rd round pick that they did not have before. So now they've got the 99th pick and they've got the 104th pick. So you're getting a late 3rd and an early 4th round pick, which is like, heck yeah, give me somebody at 99. So now you made the last pick. So I'm looking at some of the guys who are available. Now it has been
let's go wide receiver, right?
Well, it has been reported that they really like Chris Paul Jr., the linebacker. He's also the one that goes by Pooh Paul, which is just amazing. So just show me the wide receivers for, I guess, my own. Of those guys, I really like Kyle Williams, the wide receiver from Washington State. Let's do what I think the Bills would do,
right?
Which would be go back to linebacker. I think this is where the Bills would take Chris Paul, Pooh Paul. So let's take him there, even though it's not a huge position of need. It's similar to what they did with Dorian Williams. And now we're going to play the game and hope that one of those guys falls a couple spots to when the Bills are on the board at 109. So they are. So here's the question. Billy Bowman Jr., safety, a player that has been tied to the Bills in the pre-draft process, or wide receiver Kyle Williams. I here would be taking Kyle Williams. What do you think the Bills would do?
I think after 3 straight on defense, they go wide receiver.
4 straight on defense.
Yes, so you go wide receiver here.
So let's do Kyle Williams. Okay. You could just rip. The Bills aren't picking again until 132. So you're going to go on a run now of guys who you're like, yeah, I've heard that name. But if you're not an absolute draft sicko, you probably don't know who Noah Williams is or Vernon Bolton. There's Jordan Phillips, the guy you were talking about. So he just went kind of later in the 4th round.
I'm guessing, is Isaiah Bond still there? Must have been gone.
No, he was probably
okay.
Now, once again, I don't know if this mock draft simulation accounts for the off-field stuff that we learned about with Isaiah Bond. I still wonder if he's going to be a later day 2 pick or a day 3 pick. All right, so here's your best available players now with the pick that we're at, which is pretty late in this simulation. You got anybody that you're like, oh, I love this as a day 3 gem the Bills could potentially target?
Let me look at it here. Hold on. Day 3. Let's go here. Can you scroll down? Go to all. Go up to the top of this. Ooh, boy. Let's have a discussion about running back. Okay.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I just don't think they're going to take one this draft. But look, I mean, that's just me thinking that they believe it'll work out eventually. James Cook, and if it doesn't, they have a year to do it. Like it's not something they have to be pressing on this year. But it's an interesting discussion because it's a good running back class.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Trevor Etienne is the name that people will recognize because of his brother. Yeah. Scroll down a little bit. I want to know if one other running back is available. What's the deal with that? There's go up a little bit. Jaden Blue is the name that apparently he had a visit with the Bills. He's like a speed guy, you know.
How about this? How about go to safety now? We haven't looked at safety really. And you know me, I don't think they're gonna, but I think they'll take a safety at some point, maybe, but not anything. So what picker number are we at right now?
It's a big drop off. At this point, I think you're just
I think you're just throwing a dart now.
Yeah, you're pick 170. So if a player is ranked 200 on the big board, like who cares, right? This is when teams draft guys that they love. This is when a team this isn't the perfect comparison, but this is when a team will love Sean Dolak and be like, I want to draft him more. I was
going to say, how about we just send everybody to frenzy and say Sean Dolak?
Yeah. So just for the sake of the conversation, draft a safety. Who's the best safety on the board? You got any of these guys? R.J. Mickens, Dean Clark, Mac McWilliams. This is when I can tell you I don't know the difference between these guys. Just draft. I'd be Mickens.
Yeah, whatever I say here would be kind of just throwing something out there.
In the next pick, just draft Dolak, and then we're done.
Mickens seems to be ranked the highest of all the guys of this list from the different things I'm looking at.
Mike, you're going to have to search in the bar Dolak, Dolac. There you go. We can draft him. This will, hurt our draft grade because he's not rated very highly, but come on, stick to the bit. And then this is our final pick that we want to make. You got somebody you want to draft? You want to draft like a Syracuse guy? Go to the tight end.
Oh, you want me to go with the Rondé Gadsden? Go with the Rondé Gadsden.
There you go. Rondé Gadsden. He was on our podcast.
Or should we go with LaQuint Allen, the running back? Ooh.
No, or Rondé Gadsden.
Okay, they're going to draft Rondé Gadsden. Yeah, go to Rondé Gadsden. There we go.
Mike, thank you for your patience with this.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go. That's right. Rondé of the Always Game Day in Buffalo podcast.
Yeah, exactly. So that did it. Like there's our draft and there's our completed pick. So we get a B according to their grades. Our picks were Tyleek Williams, defensive lineman with the 34th pick, Darian Porter, cornerback with the 56th pick, Jordan Birch, edge rusher with the 62nd pick, Pooh Paul with the 99th pick, and then Kyle Williams with the 109th pick. I won't bore you with the other ones. We did draft Sean Dolak though, so we're playing to the audience here. Can you just take a screenshot of that, Mike, before you exit out the beginning of it, just so we have it? And then I would say any closing thoughts before we get ready for saying goodbye.
No, I again think from a Bills perspective, I really believe they're going to spend their first 3 picks on defense, assuming they stay in the spots they are now or something similar. Okay. If they were to drop down, I think other things come into play. Later, we have a later pick or maybe move up and grab somebody, and then things start to change on the board. But I think if they stay where they are now, 3 picks, generally similar, I think you're looking at 3 defenders on the first 2 days.
I think you're right. I think that the most likely outcome is what we just saw happen with a defensive tackle, a cornerback, and an edge rusher as the top 3 picks. I just don't know the order yet, which is why it's going to be so fun. I think that they could draft a corner in the first round and then try and get defensive tackle and edge rusher in the second round. Maybe one of the maybe one of the edge rushers slips, or maybe they make a minor move up and they get rid of a 4th round pick to try and go get an edge rusher who could be slipping a little bit. So there's a lot of, this is a fun draft because I don't feel strongly like I know what's going to happen. Last year, we all knew it was going to be a wide receiver. This year, I don't have any idea what position they take.
Yeah, and I think a couple of years ago when they drafted Kyer, we all knew it was going to be a corner. It was going to be a corner, and this is the danger of reaching for a position of need. This is the whole, best player available versus need, and it's why
Uh-huh.
you don't draft for need, but you do draft at needy at positions you need more than others. It's such a nuanced point. I try to get this home to people where I don't think we should term it as, what I've like to do, Matt, is not say best player available versus need anymore. What it is it's the best player available at a position you could use is really
Mhm.
what it is.
What if one of the wide receivers is available? Like one of them slips. Would you be interested in that in the first round? Do you think there's
No,
any chance the Bills
no,
would do it?
no. I'm telling you, the way they
I know,
operate,
I know.
where is he playing on this team?
A higher than I'm different than the Bills, but why is he being blocked by Curtis Samuel or Keon Coleman? The only one who absolutely should be on the field is Khalil Shakir.
Well, I could give you a reason he'd be blocked by Keon Coleman is because Keon Coleman was taken last year with the 33rd overall pick, and they believe that he's going to be a really good wide receiver,
Yeah.
and he's only going into his second year. I think
Mhm.
I think the Bills would. Yes, I absolutely think the Bills are not going to overdraft Keon Coleman. They would not do that. Draft over him.
I don't disagree. I don't think they will. But once again, I don't think it's a crazy like what if one of those guys gets injured? What if they have one
Sure.
injury at the wide receiver room? Then we were talking about you need to hit on a day 3 wide receiver. You need to draft somebody in the 4th round who turns into the producer that Gabe Davis was. And I don't know if that's
You
a
need to
foregone
hope that
conclusion.
Tyrell Shavers or KJ Hamler or someone like that does. And we know how they believe, right? That you spend time in our system, we develop you when it's your time to get in, like a Jamarcus Ingram, let's say,
Uh-huh.
then it's your time to produce.
But it has never happened at wide receiver.
Right.
Like, legitimately, during their tenure, I
Right.
cannot think of a player who has been like but maybe they'll one day be somebody who produces, and then it never ends up happening to the level that would be like, "Okay, this is going to be something that we can count on." I mean,
Agreed.
I
I think it's tough at any position, but you're right. I think Khalil's the closest, and he was a draft pick, a mid
yeah,
round draft pick. Obviously, he
yeah,
wasn't a higher guy. And look, I know, I get it. Like we can have our opinions about Curtis Samuel or about Keon Coleman.
mhm,
I don't think it's hard to see though what the Bills' opinion is, which
yeah.
is they believe everybody eats. They don't need to go out and spend big assets on wide receivers. They have the league MVP throwing the ball to them.
No, it's totally fair. I just think about difference makers and I think about potential mismatches and I think about what
Mhm.
the Bills are missing. And I still think that even with the offense they had last year, it could have been more explosive.
Mhm.
And there's still somebody that they could add that would help them in that regard. I really think that
That's where Rondé Gadsden comes in. Oh.
exactly right. Exactly. I think the way to appease people like me while also still using the meat of this draft to address the bigger needs on this team are by taking a wide receiver in the 2nd round. Like I think that would be like, hey, this is somebody who we think can contribute, and we're doing this instead of a rotational edge player who's probably going to serve a similar role to an AJ Epinesa. They do not think that way. They want to get meaner on the defensive line, and they want to overhaul that group. That's what I think that they believe, but I just feel a little bit differently.
I totally understand what you're saying. And look, I mean, they've missed and they've hit, right? It's not an exact science. We know that. We
Mhm.
did the whole thing with Brandon Bean, which by the way, with the chart, right? I started to do another one. I started to do the same thing with Brett Veach. I actually was doing that a little bit earlier today with what we did with Brandon Bean and
Uh-huh.
right and adding it. And I'll go back to what I've said many times. It's not anything better than Brandon Bean. And
Mhm.
I went to the pro football. This is a topic for another podcast, and maybe I'll bring it up. I'm going to finish the chart and do it next week for you.
Mhm.
I added up. Pro football reference, they have what it's called a weighted value of every player,
Yeah.
right? I added up the weighted value of all of Brandon Bean's draft picks outside of Josh Allen
Uh-huh.
and all of Brett Veach's.
Yeah.
According to the pro football reference value, it's over 150 points higher for Brandon Bean.
Um, yeah, I don't know if I buy that. I
Okay.
get it. I get it, but I just think about the impact players the Chiefs have had, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, they obviously like Xavier Worthy has a huge game in the AFC Championship game, does a
How
lot in
about
the
this?
Super
I
Bowl.
would say it this way. This is maybe what I've discovered. I think it's a good tease for the next podcast. I want to go through this, and I'm only singling out Brett Veach because obviously he's the Chiefs and they've
That's
beaten
the
the
yeah,
Bills,
exactly.
but it's also they literally became GM the exact same year and have
Mhm.
the exact same number of drafts under their belt. I think what you'll find. I'm going to do this on the next podcast with you. I'm going to bring this up. Okay. I think what you will find is what I've found. I think his hits are a lot are bigger hits. His misses are far more.
I think I want that though.
Okay.
We'll talk about it.
More variance for the Chiefs, more higher floor for the Bills, higher ceiling for the Chiefs. How about that?
Brett Veach hits more home runs. Brandon Beane hits more doubles.
Great way to look at it. That's what I think, but I'll test you on it next time you tell me what you think, okay?
Deal.
All right. Thanks a lot to Mike Robier for helping us out with the draft simulator and everything else. Don't forget, subscribe, download, listen, iTunes, Spotify, Sal Sports on YouTube. We will talk to you next week as we lead into the 2025 NFL Draft.